The Cubs rally to beat the White Sox last night in Wrigley Field. It was a huge game that could be a momentum builder as the season continues for Chicago. Fuck me. The Cubs rally to beat the White Sox last night at Wrigley Field. It could be the momentum builder the Cubs need to turn this season around. There was a rain delay. We know we saw one of those in 2016. Did that change the game? Could it change the season? We're going to talk about that. The Cubs finally got some slug out of their offense. Ian Happ, Christopher Morel, Patrick Wisdom. We're going to get into that. And Cade Horton shut down for the next 3 to 4 weeks with an injury. That and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in the comment section. Let us know how you're feeling about our favorite team. Ring the bell. That's a great way of saying "Go Cubs Go," which you should be singing all night long yesterday. Here's your invitation to our show. What do you say, everybody? The Cubs with a huge win over the White Sox yesterday, 7-6. The Cubs had to come back to beat them. My name's Anthony Pasquale for the Cubs Baseball Channel on Twitter at ant__ Pasquale3. Make sure to find me on there to see some of my Cubs takes and some of my other thoughts about this very interesting team. But they get a huge win yesterday, and we'll start with that. The Cubs come back to beat the White Sox 7-6. The White Sox jumped on to a 5-0 lead. The Cubs responded with 5 runs of their own. The White Sox got one back by virtue of a Luis Robert home run in his return to action off the injured list. And then the Cubs respond with a 2-run 8th inning to take the lead, and Hector Neris comes in and nails down the save. A ton to get into, but we're going to start here. A rain delay changed the game, and did it change the season? The Cubs fell behind 5-0. The White Sox jumped out to that lead, and then some lightning and some weather come into the area at Wrigley Field. So the Cubs shut the game down for about 20, 30 minutes, and they returned to action. And right after that, it was like the Cubs were a brand new ball club. They scored 1 run in that 5th inning, and then poured it on in the 6th with 4 runs by virtue of 2-run shots from Christopher Morel and Patrick Wisdom. And then, of course, in the 8th, a 2-run double from Ian Happ gave the Cubs the lead that they eventually hung on to and won the game with. But that rain delay, I would have loved to have been a fly in the wall in that room, because you can only imagine what was said. And I'm assuming it's something along the lines similar to that 2016 World Series championship rain delay, where it's like, remember who you are. We're a better team than the Chicago White Sox. We shouldn't be losing to them, and we definitely shouldn't be losing 5-0 at our home field. So when this rain delay ends, let's go out there and show them who we are. And the Cubs did that. They finally answered the call with some offense. The bullpen was great down the stretch, and the Cubs win 7-6, a huge win that I think can really propel some momentum for this season. I think we could all agree if the Cubs were to lose that game last night and lose today, you'd probably be thinking, man, this season's done for. If we can't beat the White Sox, who can we beat? And this skid would turn into a season-long slump. But instead, the Cubs rallied, they come back and win, and it could be a stepping stone to a fun summer at Wrigley. You might be thinking I'm getting ahead of myself because, yes, you are supposed to beat the White Sox. They're the worst team in the league. And I'll listen to that. Maybe I am getting a little too overzealous, but that was an exciting game yesterday, and I'm hoping the Cubs can build on it. But it wasn't all good. Obviously, the Cubs were down 5-0, and Christopher Morel's crucial error at third base sparked that big inning for the White Sox, who scored 5 runs in the top of the 4th inning. A single, then a bloop hit, and then this error on a ground ball to third from Christopher Morel. He was trying to do a little bit too much, trying to guarantee a double play, and instead he gets no outs, a run scores, a 2-run double follows, and then a home run, and the Chicago Cubs give up 5 runs just like that. And it leads you to ask, how long is this Christopher Morel experiment at third base going to last? He's obviously not a third baseman. Now, for the Cubs lineup, it would work so much better if he could figure out at third, because then you can explore moving Cody Bellinger around the diamond. You get a little bit more flexibility to get all 5 outfielders in the game with Bellinger at first, PCA in center. Happ in left, and either Suzuki or Talkman in right or DHing. But there's Michael Busch in the picture, who you have to get some at-bats in as well. Now, obviously, Morell is better offensively than Nick Madrigal or David Bodie. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't been good enough offensively to outweigh the liability that he is defensively at third base. He hasn't been good enough at the plate for you to justify putting him in to make costly errors at third base. So it's something the Cubs need to continue to work on. I'd say as it currently stands, they're still looking for a third baseman. Obviously, they want Christopher Morel's bat in the lineup, but if you have to use him as a DH, that just hamstrings the rest of your roster flexibility, because now two outfielders need to sit. Michael Busch is probably going to be out of the lineup more. And what are you going to do with Patrick Wisdom? Obviously, he's got a pretty good bat, but he struggles at third base as well. Nick Madrigal's in the minors. David Bodie's not your answer at third, and Michael Busch has played a rough third base in his career. So, do you move Horner there and explore somebody else at second? Probably not. He's a Gold Glover. You don't really want to mess with that mojo. So, it's interesting. It's definitely something to keep an eye on, but I don't think it can last too much longer if it keeps costing the Cubs runs. And it did cost the Cubs runs yesterday in Shota Imanaga's outing. Although only one earned run was not super sharp. His first 3 innings were great. He struck out 5 in 3 innings, and it looked like he was finally back. But then all of a sudden, after that Christopher Morel error, 5 runs come up on the board. And then after the rain delay, Shota Imanaga's night is cut a little bit short, but it wasn't his best outing. And that's the second time in a row since the Cubs gave him those 10 days of rest before that Friday night game in St. Louis. Got rained out. Then they postponed his start, pushed him back a full 5 more days. So we had 10 days of rest. And then the Brewers got to him last week, and the Sox got to him a little bit last night. Now, those first 3 innings were good. If you can get back to that on a consistent basis, you have to feel pretty good about that. But I'm asking, did the Cubs break Shota? Because they took him out of his rhythm. He comes back, doesn't look like the same pitcher, and now is fighting to get back into that rhythm. And the reason I ask this is because the Cubs didn't need to take him out of that rhythm. It seemed like an unnecessary move, and now it's just looking like it's biting them. You potentially derailed a super historic season by trying to save some bullets for later and be over precautionary. And that's something that I think the Cubs are kicking themselves for right now. And if they're not, I think they should be, because he was an automatic type of pitcher, 6 innings, 0 to 1 runs every time out. Then you give him 10 days rest, and he's looked rusty and out of sync since. So hopefully he can get back on track within his next couple of starts, because those first 3 innings looked like the Shota we saw before that 10 days off. But after that error, it got a little bit, it ballooned, it snowballed, and that wasn't good for Shota Imanaga's outing and his confidence as you look to build forward with him being one of your primary pitchers throughout this season. So it's definitely something we'll keep an eye on with Shota Imanaga. Those first 3 innings, if you get more of that, you'll feel really good about him for the rest of the season. Now, Jed Hoyer, before the game, this Cubs offense has been struggling so much. He called for more slug. He said, we got to start hitting the ball out of the ballpark, because hitting with runners in scoring position has been so abysmal. This team has just struggled to put runs up on the board, and one of the easiest ways to score is just knock it out of the park. And the Cubs finally did that yesterday. They had some doubles. Ian Happ had a pair of doubles. Dansby Swanson had an RBI double, and obviously Happ's second one was the go-ahead 2-run double, but they also got some home runs, some long balls. Christopher Morel, a 2-run shot to get the Cubs within 2. Later that inning, Patrick Wisdom, a 2-run homer to tie the game at 5 and really give the Cubs in Wrigley Field a boost, some energy. And that was a huge thing to see, and something that you hope the Cubs can build upon as they continue to face some light schedule. And that continues with the Chicago White Sox, who are currently in a historic slide. They've now lost 12 in a row, and the Cubs are looking to make it 13 tonight as they take on the White Sox at Wrigley Field at 7:05 p.m. Central. I'm hoping to be at the game, still looking to buy some tickets. I'm thinking the bleachers. So if you guys are going, come say hi in the bleachers, probably left field. But yes, the Cubs looking for a sweep today. They've lost their last 6 series. Hopefully today they can earn a sweep and get back on the right track. Milwaukee has lost the last 2 games, so the Cubs have picked up a game and a half in the division. They're now trailing by 6 games and currently hold a wild card spot. And on the mound tonight for the Cubs, it's going to be Jamison Tyone, who's 3-2 on the season with a 2.84 ERA, against Eric Feedy, who's 4-1 with a 3.12 ERA. Now, Tyone has been solid since returning from injury. Feedy, on the other hand, has some very interesting splits. He's been phenomenal at home for the Sox. He's pitched like a Cy Young contender at Guaranteed Rate Field. And when he's been away from home, he's been tagged for a lot of runs. So if those splits ring true, that bleeds well for the Cubs. But then again, he is pitching in the same city, so it may not quite feel as much like a road game as some of these other ones. But mind you, Wrigley Field is a much more daunting atmosphere than Guaranteed Rate Field. So hopefully the Cubs can get to him and get to him early and keep his splits going, which means the Cubs score a lot of runs against him because he's not pitching in his home ballpark. But that's who we've got on the mound tonight for the Cubs. One more thing before we go. Cade Horton, the Cubs' top pitching prospect, is going to be shut down for 3 to 4 weeks with his lat injury. So obviously, thank God it's not his arm, right? But it still is a little bit concerning to have him shut down. But he's not shut down for the season. So that means the Cubs and their doctors and their rehab plan does determine that Cade Horton can pitch this season, which is good news. He's going to be shut down for about 3 to 4 weeks and then ramp it up, with the goal being returning to AAA this season. So if you were planning on seeing Cade Horton in the major leagues late this season, maybe those plans have been squashed just a little bit, but his development is not going to be tarnished too much by this injury. And hopefully we see him pitching back soon. We'll make sure to keep you updated on that. But like we mentioned earlier, the Cubs with a chance to get the series sweep against their crosstown rival. They haven't won a series in 6 tries, but they have a chance to do so tonight. So make sure you guys are watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow with the recap of that game. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, my name is Anthony Pasquale. Make sure to jump in that comment section. We'll answer you. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know your favorite Cubs Sox memory and if yesterday's comeback is on the list. Make sure to like and subscribe. Ring the bell. That's a great way of saying "Go Cubs Go," a song you should be singing all night long yesterday and hopefully should be singing tonight. Go Cubs.